now, but instead you're here with us.
Welcome to
Hot Takes
and Hall Passes. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Carla.
Okay, welcome back to today's podcast. Today we're with Mr. Kraft.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Good afternoon. So first of all, can you tell us a bit about your upbringing and what were you like as a student?
Oh, sure, Sophia. So I grew up in Pittsburgh. I was the son of my father was a steel executive. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I went to actually a small Episcopal school, very similar actually to St. Stephen's. School was always really important to me. I worked hard. I was a good student, but more importantly, I was really lucky because I had parents who really focused more on the effort that I put into school rather than grades. So that, for me at least, really helped me just enjoy learning and not hopefully be quite as anxious about it.
Were you always very passionate about school, aside from that?
Yeah, actually I was. So one of the things, when I sign my name, I always sign it Peter A. Kraft, and I always tell people it's not like I'm trying to be fancy. It's a testament or an homage to my great-great-grandfather, who was a coal miner, and found a way to send all of his children, including 8 young women, to college. And in doing that, changed generations of people's lives. So that's something I inherited. Again, I was lucky. My parents didn't say you have to get all A's or anything, but they did say this is an incredible opportunity. We expect you to lean in and seize it.
Who were your biggest influencers, like growing up professionally and not professionally?
Well, my parents, probably like everybody, my parents were big influences on me, and honestly, my friends. From a young age, my parents really drove into me the importance of picking people that make you not only a good person, but a better person. And so I was fortunate. I had really wonderful friends who were kind and thoughtful and accomplished, and helped me be a better person as a result.
From that, what led you to pursue a career in education?
Well, it's interesting. I never thought I would go into education or be a teacher. There's nobody in my family on either side that was. I figured I'd go into finance, maybe go to work on Wall Street or be a lawyer. But when I was in college, I realized I really enjoyed learning and felt like I had the ability to potentially at least teach others. So I went to grad school. I was fortunate. I didn't pay anything for undergraduate. I had a scholarship there. I had a scholarship to graduate school. In fact, I had a scholarship to both graduate schools. So I figured, well, I'm not in debt. I don't have to worry about the money. I'll try teaching, and I just loved it. Loved working with people and loved coaching. I coached for almost 20 years.
Oh, basketball, right?
Basketball and football.
Yeah. We both play basketball too.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. No, and I just once I started, I realized that it was something I really love to do.
What's been your most rewarding part of your career so far?
Oh, absolutely, by far is helping others succeed. What I always say is I really think my job is to help other people be successful. So I look at particularly some of the really outstanding young women with whom I've worked, that I've been able to help them achieve some of their career goals and be not only really good at their job, probably far better than I was. And I think the other most rewarding part of my career is just helping young people and hopefully doing a small part in making them better people and having them have success in life.
That's definitely actually a bigger part of why we brought you on to here, because we both value your success in your career and we looked up to you. So it's
Nice.
We're honored to have you as our first guest. Yeah.
I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Going off of success, how do you define it for yourself and for fellow students here at St. Stephen's?
Yeah, I think it's not easy to do, but it's pretty basic. I define success as when people find something that they love to do and are passionate about, and then maximize their potential in that area. When I was a coach, I never talked about wins or losses. I just talked about really leaning into what I would say is inputs, not outputs, what you put into it. And for me, that's what success is. Really working hard at something that you like and that you do the best you can to be the best you can.
What advice would you give students who want to lead or make a difference in the community?
Well, I give this advice to anybody at any age. I think the first thing to understand about leadership is that you serve others. And the best leaders are the ones that really try to remember that. Leadership is not about being the center of the universe. It's really about taking talented people and putting them in positions where they can be successful and make a difference, and then serve others. So that whole servant leadership thing, which you might have heard of before, to me, it really is essential. And that's true in every field. It's not just it's true of education, but not. The people that I've met that have been incredibly successful in their fields, they're the first people to tell you that they're proud of what they've helped others accomplish, and they also recognize it's not about them. And I just think that's the first place to start. The other, and this is a piece of advice I give everybody, is as a leader or as a person, one of the biggest mistakes we all make is we try to tell people how they should feel. And you've all done this. Somebody's upset. You say, well, don't be upset. And what do they almost always say? Well, I am.
Yeah.
So just on like a baseline, what you're trying to do is actually see where someone's coming from. And then the best you can, help support them. So if they're really happy, really sad, struggling, achieving, it doesn't really matter. Your job isn't to try to tell them how to feel. It's your job is to see where they are and then move them forward.
What do you think makes a school truly great?
Great students and great teachers. I mean, more than anything, I mean, I always say you could have like the world's worst curriculum, you could have like absolutely abysmal facilities, but if you have great teachers, your school will succeed. And I feel the same way about students. It's not about how many great colleges they get into or what their SAT scores are, and those things matter. I'm not minimizing that, but at the end of the day, what makes those schools successful are just having people that are good people who care about being excellent at what they do. And from a school perspective, I think it's our job is to figure out how we can help young people find their passions and then become as good at them as they can for college and beyond. We need to have humility. We're not working with young people, and your life doesn't stop once you leave St. Stephen's. So we're just a small part of your larger whole.
Yeah. But
you shouldn't have to wait to have an opportunity to follow your passions and really start to determine what's important to you and how you can do it.
Okay, last question of this segment. How do you handle criticism in your leadership role or setbacks?
I'm really glad you asked that. I think this is actually maybe the most important question that y'all asked me, because whether you're a leader by title or just a leader by doing the right things, you are going to get criticized, especially if you try to really stay true to your values, even if it's easier not to. I think the first and most important thing is when you get criticized, you slow down and you actually listen. And even if it seems like the most outrageous criticism, you really try to slow down and say, is there something in here that I can learn from? It does two things. One is it reframes it. So instead of being like focusing on the negative, you focus on what can I take out of it. The other is, especially if that person is either right in front of you or has some type of dialogue, email or a phone call or whatever, there's real power in like honestly, authentically listening to them, even if you ultimately at the end disagree. So I think it's that piece. And then the other part is just recognize that at the end of the day, most of the time, things are more complex than people realize. And so if you try to help them understand the complexity of a situation, you're trying to do the right thing. Sometimes they won't want to hear it, but again, I think that's what I try to do. If someone's really upset or critical of me or something we're doing, first I listen and see if there are things we can learn. And then secondly, I try to, without being obnoxious about it, explain why perhaps the situation is a little more complex than it might seem.
Now we're moving into the next segment of our podcast called
Hot takes. Yeah.
All right, I'm
Okay.
ready.
Is AI in education a threat or a tool?
Yes. I'm being cheeky, as the British would say, but no, it's both. I think it can be an incredibly powerful tool. We're actually playing with a lot of it right now at St. Stephen's with some things that will roll out relatively soon, which will allow us to get to know prospective students a little bit better.
Yeah.
On the flip side, abused, it's really an issue. I think it can shut down thinking. Students, my daughter talked about this in college, they use AI instead of something else, and there's just a lot of issues with that. But I think it's both.
Yeah.
Should students be allowed to grade their teachers?
Depends on what you mean by grade. I don't like, like they're an A or they're a 12 or they're this, that, or the other, but I can tell you that as a teacher, I always ask my students for feedback, authentic feedback, because I think for anybody to get better, you should ask the people with whom you're working how it's going.
I think that goes into like the criticism question too.
Yeah.
Which is more important in high school, GPA or personal growth?
Absolutely personal growth. GPA matters, but to be very frank, more and more now, colleges, what they really want to know is what are you really passionate about? What do you bring to the table that looks different? There are millions and millions of students who have good GPAs. So now the question is not only what differentiates you, but what's important to you. And I think seeing yourself as a work in progress and a growth is going to get you to where you want to be a lot faster than just focusing on your GPA.
When you were in high school, did you think that too? Or has your opinion changed over the years?
Well, I would say two things. People say, and I used to say this as a teacher, I'm never ever going to say grades don't matter, because they do. They matter a lot. And so when I answer the question I do, it's not that I'm minimizing the importance of grades, it's that I understand now as a person who's older that if you focus on getting better and getting better and getting better, that's the ticket to be successful, rather than take a test, get an A, and keep moving. Because maybe you didn't study at all, you just got lucky and asked the questions that you needed to know. Well, that's good, and that's fine, nothing wrong with it, but if you're focusing on getting better all the time, that's just the better recipe, so.
Whose class in the upper school would you want to take the most?
Well, I promise, I did not know that Mr. Cotton was going to be here, but I would take computer science for two reasons. One is I don't know very much about it, and my brother is a hardware and software engineer, so that's what he does for a living, and I would love to know a little bit more about how that all works. Plus, I like Mr. Cotton, I think he's a wonderful guy.
Okay.
Would you rather have a school with no Wi-Fi or no AC for a year?
No Wi-Fi, no doubt. Now, if it were in not Florida, I might change that answer, but yeah, you can teach really well and learn really well without Wi-Fi. If it's 200 degrees in the classroom, it's pretty hard.
That's true. What's your unpopular opinion about college?
That it's worth the money. You know, there's a lot of stuff, especially the last few years, where people are like, oh, you know, is college really worth the money? I think it is. I do. And you can look at the data. The data suggests that it is. That, you know, if you look at earnings as something that you want to do, I hope you got to pay the bills. You know, you're much more likely to earn more if you go to college. The other is that, you know, it's an investment in your future. So then that doesn't mean that every school's the right school for you, or that the more expensive, the better. But I think if you find the right college for you, it's worth the money. And that doesn't mean that everybody has to go to college, but you know, again, there's been a trend of like, yeah, you don't really need to go to college, and you know, you don't have to, but the experience in this economy and in the data is pretty clear that you have a major advantage if you do.
All right, last one, and perhaps the most controversial. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
No?
Absolutely not. I don't want anything contaminating my pizza from a tree.
I love pineapple. I do too. So which, like, the most,
What's your
like,
topping?
out of ordinary topic, well, topping.
I'm really old school. I'm like a pepperoni, that's about it. Maybe a little sausage, but.
Surprised you haven't touched pepperoni now.
Oh, well, you know, pepperoni there's no relationship other than the first letter to pineapple or any of these terrible things.
Do you even like pineapple, or is it just?
I do like pineapple,
You do
just
don't
not
put
on
it
pizza, no.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
it was
you.
great having you on.
All right, well, thanks for having me, it was fun.
Hope to
Thank
see
you.
soon.
All right.
Thank you for watching.